Yeah, thank you, Nick, and good to see everyone. And I want to thank our staff and Mikhail, who's being today at the end, and Kristi and Greg for stopping by. And this is exciting. I call NIL the AI of the world. I've never seen anything like it. It's changing our life. It's changing our company. It's global. Watching the Olympics and watching international, it's a great time. But we wanted to bring in two experts to talk about today what's going on in the world. And Greg's been a faculty of ours. Christy's come in many times. We use her book, and we'll talk about that. But Christy, I'm going to go with you first, not just ladies first, but you're our guest today. You got to start. Where'd you go to high school? And kind of walk us through your path to where you are today. And thanks for coming in.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for being here with us tonight. I went to high school at Parkview High School in Lilburn, Georgia, which has turned out quite a few professional athletes. So sports have been a part of my life for a very long time. I was an athlete. I was a softball player, but chose not to play in college. I went to a small D3 that did not have a softball team. I went to Oglethorpe University in Atlanta and
Yeah.
then did law school at University of Florida. And that's what really sparked my interest in the business of college sports because I was at Florida in law school for two back-to-back basketball championships and a football championship, and then another football championship the year after I left. And that really is what got me interested in the business of college sports and how it impacts the university and the town in so many different ways. And although I didn't go work in sports law directly out of law school, I went to work at a big firm in Atlanta doing corporate law and real estate finance. But I had this interest in sports law and in sports and business issues. And so I was blogging about it on the side on just like a free little WordPress blog. And that attracted the attention of some folks who asked me to do guest posts and radio interviews and TV interviews. And I ended up getting asked to write at Forbes eventually, got a book deal, and then got a job offer from ESPN to be their sports business reporter back in 2011. And I have never returned to practicing law since then. I've been a sports business reporter ever since. And now I also am a law professor and a sport management and journalism professor, all at the University of Florida. I teach NIL in three different departments. So NIL has become my life over the last 5 years. It's the only thing I teach, write, or speak on anymore. So excited to talk about it more here tonight.
You bet. Are you living in Gainesville right now?
No, I live about an hour and a half away. I live on Amelia Island outside of Jacksonville.
Right, there you go. Right. Okay. Okay, let's turn now. Thank you. And we'll come back to you, Christy, talk about that book. And we're going to take questions. You don't need a lot of me ramming and raving in here. This is really like a crazy time. Greg, assuming you went to high school, tell us your story. You're muted. You're muted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's great to be with everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to be here and really excited to be able to talk about NIL. And Christie's one of my favorites in the industry as well. So, did go to high school, Lincoln Sudbury High School in Sudbury, Massachusetts. Produced at least I know of two Olympians, probably even more than that since I graduated. But the idea is I went there and I ended up having a back injury. I played golf, hockey, and baseball. And if you obviously have a back injury, that's going to prohibit you in a few of those sports. And then what ended up happening was I actually started broadcasting my high school hockey games. And I had 2 years of experience when I got to college. And when they said, who has experience broadcasting hockey games at Quinnipiac University? I said I got 2 years of experience, and that was better than anybody else in that room. So that's how it all started. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. I did accomplish that. I went to be the Portland Pirates broadcaster. If you know anything about minor league sports, which I know a lot of you in this room do, you wear a lot of hats. And I wore a lot of different hats, and eventually was not only the play-by-play, but community relations, media relations, team services. The number of times I had to find a ketchup bottle at a team meal, I don't even want to go there. But the idea is that I took that experience and I had to slow life down. I had a back surgery in 2008, and what ended up happening was I got out of sports. And this is a lesson for all of you in this room: is I really struggled with that. I was still doing my broadcasting on the side, and I just was out of sports. So I was there for 13 years at a PR and marketing firm. And, I look back at that and that was probably a blessing because I was able to then realize I wanted to start my own marketing firm. And at the same exact time that happened was COVID. So I decided now's the best time I'm ever going to do this. Everybody's working from home anyway. What does it matter? And so then I decided I would start my own marketing firm. At the same exact time, NIL happened. And I said, holy smokes, this is my dream job. I love marketing. I love branding. And I love working in sports. And the door opened and I busted right through it. Actually took the course, as you said, Dr. Lashbrook. That's how I got my start. And then you graciously offered me to teach the course. And much like Kristi, my life has revolved around NIL ever since. So,
Yeah, yeah, I love both you guys. I get ready for your questions. I'll have one more question. I want to comment. We started the company 30 years ago. I was a successful agent, but I lost a guy named Ryan Leaf, and the internet dial-up Yahoo came up, and I said I could teach people. I've been an educator all my life. I could teach people how to be a sports agent, and that's how we launched sports management worldwide. And my secret I call it the Ralph rule. If you get Ralph Dawkins out of Louisville, an undrafted free agent, you might get the younger brother Brian out of Clemson, an NFL Hall of Famer. And now I fast forward to NIL when I reached out to Greg and Chrissy is that it's called relationships. And I use a metaphor as we take your questions here in a minute. The metaphor is that an Uber driver has a car, fills out an app, and they get approved. They go to the airport and they pick up a passenger and they make money. As the passenger getting off the plane, the closest one to the airport gets the business. And I want to tell you something with the international recruiting in NIL, the corporate agency with hundreds of clients can have a conflict, particularly in transfer portal. I think it's revolutionary what's going on about working in sports. And Greg and Kristi both have that expertise. Kristi, I'm going to go to you before we'll take your questions and start raising your hand so we can get everybody in. But Kristi, my question to you, in the crystal ball, no pun intended, where's it all heading? What does it look like to you in 5 years? I just want your perspective. Chrissy, you're muted.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. My mouth
That's
wasn't
right.
working as fast as I wanted it to. Yeah, I think that we will largely continue on the trajectory we're on with NIL and revenue sharing unless and until such a time that athletes are deemed to be employees and can collectively bargain. But I was just telling a class earlier today that I zoomed into up at Iowa. At this point, I actually think athletes maybe don't want collective bargaining because there's no guardrails now. There's no guidelines. There's nothing stopping them from sort of their ultimate earning potential. Whereas I think at this point, schools, and some ADs have already started to shift this way, schools should maybe want collective bargaining at this point because it's the only way they're going to be able to put any sort of meaningful control in place that won't be, immediately torn apart by an antitrust lawsuit. So, I think that's where we're headed. Will it happen in 5 years? That I'm not so sure about because I don't want to get political, but I don't think that we're going to see athletes become employees while Republicans are in power, and that no comment on anybody in the current administration, but we saw there were pending cases. Dartmouth men's basketball had won at the regional level, and then there were several other cases that were pending. And as soon as Trump was elected, those were all withdrawn because the attorneys knew the likelihood of success in a Republican, regime was unlikely to happen. So, I think it depends on who our next president is and our makeup of Congress and, sort of where we go from here. But I do think that's where we're headed eventually. I'm maybe in the next 10 years. I don't know about the next 5.
Kristi, I'm the oldest one in the room here, and I've got to be honest with you, both vertically and horizontally. Many states have made it allowable or legal for NIL, and then horizontally, globally, no matter what the visa rules are, there's ways around that. And I think recruiting internationally and 8 billion people out there, and the growth of women's sports, and the growth of streaming, and the growth of social media. I find it fascinating. I just don't see any ceiling whatsoever. It's exciting. Greg, your comments, you've been in the industry, you're watching it every year exponentially grow. What's your comments or your vision of the future?
Yeah, my vision for the future is making sure that the athletes have the proper education. And I think that one of the things that has happened from day one was the NCAA kind of took this hands-off approach, is we don't want to touch it, we don't want to get involved. And as we've seen, now that they've required mandatory education over the past year, now athletes are actually starting to learn more about this and how it
Yeah.
works and the ways to go about it. I still think at many schools there's not enough,
Right.
but I do think as we continue to educate and empower them, we're going to see more NIL opportunities.
Right.
I really feel like if you're an athlete at
Yeah.
any college right now, and I'm talking everything from down to D3, NAIA, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to earn money from your name, image, and likeness. And if you're not going pro, this is a huge window of opportunity for you.
Right.
And if you're not looking into it, if you're not working with someone, if you're not contacting the school, what can I do? How do I get involved?
Yeah.
I think it's a miss for any athlete. Now it becomes almost something you want to add to your athlete resume
Right.
is that you did it because it's going to help you get a job down
Right.
the line. And I hope
Right.
that more athletes will continue to
Yeah.
take advantage of it. And I also hope more schools will continue to educate, like
Right.
Kristi's doing, obviously down in Florida.
Right. Give us a special plug what you try to accomplish in our course, and then I want Kristi to plug her book, and then Nick is asking for questions, and we'll have some fun in here. We want everybody. I say every week in my Sunday chat, I've been doing it for 30 years and have over 30, 40 people in all over the world. But I always say adrenalize today and monetize tomorrow. I want everybody to get a return on their investment. And there's too much money in sports. And I want to Uberize the opportunity for people to work in sports, keep their day job. Greg, what do you try to accomplish? A short version of the 8-week course that we offer.
Yeah, I love teaching the course. I love being able to connect with so many different people. They want to do so many different things in the NIL space. This doesn't mean you have to be an agent. Just because you're in this class. I mean, we've had people in financial planning that want to just understand the world of NIL better so they can better service potential clients. We've had parents who have no idea what's going on and they're trying to figure this out for the first time. We do have agents who need to know what's going on in NIL because if you're trying to recruit your next athlete and you don't know what NIL is and can't speak intelligently to it, it's going to be a really hard
Yeah.
accomplishment to be able to land, especially at the college level, an athlete that wants to do NIL. So I think that the most important thing that comes out of the class is I really try to customize it for the group. So it doesn't matter what you want to do. I try to make sure everybody gets out of it what they need to. Networking, relationship building, and then opportunities. I continue to work with many of the alumni that have taken the course. Johnny Perkins, who's in the call here tonight, is a great example. Johnny is now an NIL consultant to Pliable because of the work that he's been able to do, the relationship building that I know he's capable of. And it's
Yeah.
fantastic to see when students go on to be successful. I've helped at least 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Also get enough confidence to start their own agency, which is always awesome.
Right. And Greg, what's interesting? I want to go to Kristi here, but what's interesting, I go back to the Ralph rule. If you don't have a relationship with a junior in high school and family, NIL, it's really difficult to get in the green room as an agent. I think every agent I talk to has to know the NIL and be involved. And so we're talking about a revolution, if I may. Kristi, your comments on your beautiful book that we use in our class to assist Greg so he makes him smarter.
Sorry, I got bumped off the for a second. Yeah, so I started outlining the book in September of 2021, and I was making changes on a literal daily basis. So by October, I decided, well, you can't write a book right now. This all just started. We're figuring out how it works. It's a mess. You can't write it. So I sort of shelved it. I already had a literary agent, and so we started talking about it again, oh, maybe early 2024. And I was like, okay, maybe at this point I could sit down and write a book because I get all these emails from athletes and from their parents. And I had started running a Facebook group for parents because I couldn't answer all the emails. And really, they had similar questions. So it made sense to start in a place where they could all see it together. And so I started kind of building out the book and shopping it around to publishers. And I can honestly say it has the answer to every single question I have ever been asked by an athlete or a parent. And I was able at the very end to get a little revenue sharing at the end of the book because I was pretty sure the House settlement was going to get approved in substantially the form it was presented. So I was able to sneak
Right.
in a final chapter on revenue sharing, even though I had to turn my book in before the judge approved it. But I was right, and so everything is still up to date. But it really has the answer to every question I've been asked, and I hope that stays true for a while because I don't want to update it anytime soon.
Well, I just love it. And Greg, and we have our hockey or our football conference next week. I started 30 years ago with 20 students with beer in a bathtub. We'll have maybe 300 plus. Ike and others in this office. Everybody's working hard for that. So at our conference, we always bring in NIL. Greg will be there, but it's such a big deal. And then we'll be up in Buffalo, Greg, for the for hockey. And so it's a part of it. It's having a major impact on hockey. NIL, major juniors, it's impacting NBA Europe. It's impacting all over the world, and it's fascinating. And I'll tell you one story before I go to Eric for his first question. Growing up and walking on at Fort Hays State, a famous school out in the middle of Kansas, and I made the team and I started, and about 6 weeks into the game, I got 3 interceptions in one game against Southern Colorado in Pueblo on a Saturday night, and of course came back on the bus. I always went to Al's Chickenette on Sunday. And I always look back, if there was NIL, I bet I would have got a free meal. And I bet if I brought my team in next week, I would have got a t-shirt. So I missed out on NIL. I've tried to get an attorney to file, but I don't know anybody will take that charge. Let's have some fun here. And if you're not having fun, I think you ought to leave. But I'm going to go to Eric Magner with your introduction and question for these two people. Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you, Dr. Lasbrook. I'm Eric Magner. Thanks our wonderful, illustrious panel today for coming in. I work in Mississippi at Delta State University and Delta in Cleveland, Mississippi. I am working on a PhD in higher education leadership with intercollegiate athletic administration. My dissertation is a case study on name, image, and likeness.
Okay.
From Old Dominion University. I come from a legal background, so
I love it.
yeah.
What's your question, big guy? I love
Okay.
having you in here.
Thank you. How can universities, at least as a general rule, support student athletes in maximizing
Yeah.
their name, image, likeness opportunities
Right.
while still preserving competitive equity,
Right.
the core educational mission,
Right.
and specifically
Yeah.
with Title
So,
IX?
so I'll comment as a former athletic director. Talking, most schools have a compliance officer and they have NIL. They're all trying to help make it a win-win. They have to be involved with the collectives, if I may. And I'll go to Kristi first. Kristi, your comments on the university, both the athletic department and sports management. I think it's a fair question.
It looks really different at Power Four versus, a lot of other
Right.
places. Power Four, they've got an NIL director, and often they've got another couple of NIL coordinators, and they're contacting local businesses and they're looking over
Yeah.
contracts for athletes. But I want to talk a little bit about schools I've seen that are doing a really good job sort of bootstrapping NIL, and
Yeah.
Troy University comes to mind for me. I went and visited a couple of years ago. I grew up working out at a baseball facility with Troy's AD, who's now the deputy AD at Georgia Tech, Brent Jones. And so he brought me over
Okay.
to Troy, and they have an entrepreneurship center on campus that's
Right.
part of their business school. And really early on, folks in athletics partnered with some of the folks at the entrepreneurship center to work on education for student athletes, but also get them in front of some of the business leaders in town. For
Right.
example, they were going to Chamber of Commerce meetings and meeting some of the business owners in town. They were making use of a podcast studio
Yeah.
that I think they had over in their
Yeah.
communication school. And I tell schools that don't have the sort of money and the bandwidth in the athletic department, go look around campus. There other departments on campus have subject
Right.
matter experts. They have physical facilities that can help with NIL.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you want to kind of do an audit of campus and see, like, how can we use what we already have over in our
Great.
academic department? And every school I've had this conversation with
Right.
has found faculty members in those academic departments
Right.
who are
Good.
passionate about helping student athletes with this.
Right. Great point. And let's face it, there's just so many resources out there. Greg, your comment there before we go to Johnny.
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. And one of the things I think we're starting to see, and I chuckle at this because it's like an arms race, or when one school does it, the other one does it, right? So Christy's absolutely right. Power schools are going to look different than the non-power conference schools. But one thing we're starting to see a trend with is that it used to be really cool to recruit an athlete to your school by having the best, fanciest locker room. You spend millions of dollars, you get the light up top, and everybody thinks this is amazing, and they have this like aha moment. Well, guess what? Everybody does that now. So now, like I look at all these locker room tours and they're all the same. I'm like, the same place just built that one and changed the logo. Like, but the point
Great
is
observation.
what they're going to start to do is the next frontier is okay, yeah, you can recruit them with your locker room, but can you recruit them with a content studio for their NIL?
Yeah.
Because what'll
Yeah.
end up happening is if they are building these facilities the right way, which I know several have, UConn has done this, there are several more. There was an article that came out 2 weeks ago, is that college and universities should be, like Kristi was saying, investing in a space where they can actually create this
Mhm.
content, have people supporting them. I mean, there are marketing agencies internally
Yeah.
at these college and universities. I see a day when there are going to be more people working in sports management and students wanting to help students with athletes and NIL, and they're going to almost have their internal place where they can do that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a place for representation, obviously, but I
Yeah.
think that it's a great
Yeah.
place for athletes to connect with current students
Right.
and resources to be able to
Right.
do it.
And before I go to Johnny, just remind everybody we have a master's and doctorate program, but don't laugh. You take an NIL course, you have some expertise, then you get certified as a master's or a doctorate. The chance of being an adjunct at a school or work in the athletic department are definitely enhanced, if I may. Let's go to Johnny with your introduction and question or comment. Always good to see you, Johnny.
I see you, Dr. Lashbrook. Johnny Perkins from Sacramento, California. And I'm honored to be working with Greg Glynn and Pliable Marketing. I graduated from the NIL course last August and excited to be part of that. And Dr. Lashbrook every Sunday get on those calls, and they're just amazing. I want to tell you, though, I have read the Athletes NIL playbook. I actually have a signed copy from Kristi. And Kristi, thank you for sending that to me. I'm a basketball official, baseball umpire, and high school football referee, and I utilize a rule book. And so for me, the athlete's NIL playbook is my rule book for NIL. My questions, it's really one into two, but it's Kristi, where do you kind of see NIL going in the high school space? I mean, I see a lot of great high school athletes. Most states have approved NIL deals now. Where do you see it going there? And then Division Three, which I think is an untapped resource, where is Division Three maybe going in the next 2 to 3 years as it relates to NIL opportunities? And again, thanks for signing my book. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for buying the book and thank you for the plug. So I went to a D3, so I've been following the D3 space closely. In fact, I'm going to be on campus at my D3 the first week of March talking to
That's
their
cool.
athletes, because there is a belief among both athletes and administrators at the D3 level that sort of NIL isn't happening there or isn't for them, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And my alma mater is one of the most prolific D3 athletes when it comes to NIL, Lainey Higgins, who I profiled in the book because she has been, really doing this
Absolutely.
since her senior year of high school. She lived in Florida, and Florida had not changed their rules yet. So she had to wait till her senior season was over and then begin NIL. But she really hit the ground running. And ultimately, she became the first college athlete sponsored by Lululemon. And there are plenty
Yeah.
of D1 athletes with hundreds of thousands or millions of followers that would have liked to work with Lululemon. She had a couple of thousand followers, I think, when she first reached out to Lululemon, but they worked with her because she had created this really cool content series on her Instagram called Walking and Talking, where she got another athlete from another school to walk around their campus, and she was walking around her campus, and they would talk about different things. And she went to them and said, look, I have this series. I've already done one full season of it. Here's what it looks
Yeah.
like. I want you to be the title sponsor. And a lot of athletes just, they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to approach companies. They don't
Right.
know how to show their value. If they're willing to reach out to the company, they go to them and
Right.
basically tell the company all the things the company can do for them, and they forget that they need to sort of sell what they can do for the company, which is what I try to teach in the book and what I think all try to teach in our NIL classes. And, at the high school level, there's just more and more interest. I mean, most of the parents who are in my Facebook group, which I think has about 2,000 parents in it now, most of them are high school parents and even down to middle school. And I have a couple of elementary school parents. I have the dad of an 8-year-old football player, which is maybe a little much, but their interest level in it is really high. And it might be as simple as, getting a free pizza, once a month or something. They're not necessarily looking for huge dollars, but they're excited by this opportunity. And I think it's great because I think it's teaching kids entrepreneurial and leadership lessons that I didn't have till much later in life. So I definitely see it picking up, and I see brands now more willing to work with the younger athletes as
and
well.
The women are doing quite well, if I may, without any Title IX mandate. And I will share as an academic, we're going to go to Duncan next, Duncan Mills, but I will share as a past president of the National Association of Academic Advisors. That was all about education and getting a degree. And I think it's refreshing to see 17-year-olds take responsibility for their actions. And the entrepreneurial, you call it solopreneur, but it's really, you do have a chance to be a solopreneur in this world. And I think it's exciting. They learn a lot about business while they're going to college. Let's go to Duncan Haynes Mills with your introduction and question or comment.
Hi, my name is Duncan Haynes Mills. I am from the faithful land of Kansas, very close to Fort Hays, actually, for Dr. Lashbrook to be happy about.
And there's no else chicken up, but if they had NIL, I would have saved them.
Yes, that is for sure. So basically, start off a comment, then go into a question. My first comment was going to be, my high school, actually, when I was a sophomore in high school, they actually had what I be thankful to this teacher to the rest of my days. She actually showed us a video clip of NIL and what it was like for college life for these people before NIL was even thought of or even just discussed about.
Right.
And I watched that and I just couldn't help but be like, these kids are getting ripped off. Like they're getting barely any breakfast, barely anything going to them, and they have to then try to figure out how to pay their college tuition. I'm going like these kids are getting ripped off, and I felt like there's got to be something in here that can then later, and then NIL became a thing, and I've always been fighting it. I've always been fighting
Very good
for
observation.
it.
I even feel guilty being part of the old world, but that's what it was. And but it's over. It'll never return to that. It's happening. But you have a question or comment for Greg and Kristi?
The quick question was, if Greg or Kristi could teach a class, what level of like high school, middle school, even college, what level of education did you want to teach at, basically?
Greg, I'll let you start.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because I would like to do high school more. I've spoken to several high schools. There's actually some high schools that even have NIL courses. I'm not kidding.
Yes,
so it's very important because to me, if we can build an ecosystem where the athletes are smart enough to know the rules before they really enter the world of NIL, that is critical because they're going to make many missteps when they get to college and a buddy says, hey, you should go do this, or hey, let's try this video. And then they're repping these brands and they're actually breaking the Federal Trade Commission laws. I mean, they don't even know some of this stuff. So the idea is we really need to educate, we need to empower, and that high school group really is, if you think about it, going to hold the key to the castle for the next 5 to 10 years. And what we see for content, what we see for development, what we see for relationship building, what we see for NIL deals is going to come from this next generation. So that's why I'm always looking to stay ahead of the game because, as I say to athletes, you don't want to arrive on campus day one and find out about NIL. You're going to already be way behind.
And back to the parents, nobody knows the kid better than the parents, and that's why I think what Kristi's doing too with her book. Kristi, you want to comment on his question before we go to Riley Brotman?
Yeah, I feel similarly. I mean, I teach law school, grad school, and undergrad now, but I would love to get in front of more high school students, particularly because I have a passion for trying to get to athletes before they sign with agents because the agent space lacks any regulation, and it's that there's some bad actors in this space. And by the
Yep.
time they get to college, a lot of them have already signed with these people. So I've spent a lot of the last year trying to get in front of more high school students. And in fact, the NBA brought me in to talk to their top high school students because the NBA has noticed that they've got athletes coming in with problematic contracts that so-called agents, who I wouldn't consider actual agents, had them sign in college that are following them into the pros. And I've got another presentation coming up in May for a professional development group, all people from pros who are experiencing issues with athletes that are coming in with problematic contracts. So I want to hit them earlier for that.
Yeah, totally agree with you, and globally too, as we are trying to do at Sports Made Worldwide. Let's go to Riley Brotman, one of our favorite students. Riley, come in with your introduction.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Riley Brotman. I'm from Ontario, Canada. I come from a different side of the world. I'm an SMWW agent advisor, SMWW global ambassador for Ontario, Canada. My question for both Kristi and Greg. Greg, it's good to see you again. But what are we looking at in terms of NIL for Canada, and what that landscape going to look like? Is it going to be in 5 years, 10 years, or where are we at that point?
Good question. And let's start with you, Kristi. That's a great question, Riley.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I talk to my friends who are immigration attorneys about this all the time, and they see no real movement towards changing this. I mean, the federal government has to make a change for this. They don't have any real incentive or reason to want to change student visas. And so the immigration attorneys I know don't think that it's coming anytime soon, which is really unfortunate.
Right.
Yeah,
just Kristi, go ahead, Greg, please. And Greg, what I wanted to say real quickly is that even though the U.S. says, the foreign student, et cetera, we know that's changing right now. There's passive ways around it. I believe someday it'll be global, including Canada. That's just my opinion, but everybody has an opinion. But Greg, your comments are a great question by Riley, and great comments, Kristi.
Yeah, absolutely. And Riley, I hope you're doing well. I know you've been going through some things with your health, so thinking of you first. But I wanted to comment because you've been on this thing from, I want to say, like a year and a half now, Riley. You keep waiting for you keep waiting for this rabbit to come out of a hat, and I think that we're closer. Every time somebody mentions it, every time we push the needle, we keep talking about it. I do have a little bit of optimism in the sense that yes, there are ways to do it. So. Unfortunately, you're going to have to do everything, on your side of the border. And it gets really complicated with payments and social media and where was this post made and all these other things. It does make it prohibitive. So what I've also seen is I just got an email probably 2 or 3 days ago from a large institution that was explaining to international athletes that there are some tax ramifications to what they may be receiving for some of their NIL. So I'm actually going to follow up with that institution to see what they're doing and why they were referencing that. I have an athlete at that school, have a good relationship with that school. So I'm going to be very curious to see why they're doing that and how that's all working for them. Right. And I would be happy to report back on that, Riley, because it is something that I'm waiting to kind of open up that, box, because as I've seen from research, you're looking at probably, depending on sport, you're looking anywhere between 15 to 18% international athletes that are waiting,
And Greg, I do know this is going to have a huge impact on scholarship and collectives and everything, because they want the 7-foot basketball player, and whether it's NIL or collective, there's so many ways around it. Let's go to Dedrick Cosby with your introduction and question or comment. Dedrick, welcome in.
Hey, good afternoon, Dr. Lashbrook, Kristi, and Greg. It's truly an honor to be here with you all. My past, I was a youth football coach for about 12 years. I just completed NIL course in May with Greg. Great teacher, still my mentor today. I'm currently building my own NIL agency. It's called Pressman Sports. Also a newly SMWW agent advisor. I will be at the combine and the conference as well. So I'm excited about that. Now, my question, as a small startup NIL agency, what are my disadvantages versus large established NIL agencies with respect to recruiting athletes, with respect to recruiting athletes, more importantly, establishing a relationship with the big name brands for deals such as Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, and so on?
And I want to say this as an agent for 30 years. I think anybody with has a relationship, which is a phone number, relationships, and I don't feel intimidated more with the corporate. And in fact, I think the corporate firm that has 150 clients has a conflict. I can't send my player to Tennessee because I got a client there. I can't go to Mississippi. So my point is, that's just mine. I'll go to Greg first and then Kristi, but it's a great question. Greg, your comments on the revolution we're in with NIL.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dedrick, great to obviously have you in, and you're an awesome student, and I'm so excited what you're going to do next. To speak to what you're talking about with disadvantages, I always look at things and I try to turn, a negative into a positive. And I would say there's definitely some things here to think about. Number one, you are an independent NIL agent. That is an important piece. That's what Dr. Lashbrook's talking about is you don't have ties to 100 different athletes and that can cause conflicts of interest, things like that. When it comes to talking about these big brands, this is where you go and your job recruiting is going to allow you to open those doors. If you go and you find a good possible NBA player, baseball player, whatever it may be, if they have the following, if they have what I like to say the potential, you can sell that potential to anybody. Any brand is going to listen to potential, listen to potential reach, listen to engagement, listen to their passions, because that's the thing that's going to make the brand want to act. It's not necessarily going to be the agency they're with. And probably they have agencies they like and don't like. And your opportunity is a chance to create now this new, opportunity for them to like your agency. So, hit them with that. And your personality alone is going to attract people, Dedrick. So I think as far as, the one disadvantage you're going to have is money, potentially, right? And all the big things that they can do and try to help these athletes. But work ethic and relationship building is going to be the key to your success.
You bet. Kristi, your comment on a great answer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I refer athletes to agents, there's a couple of agents I send them to, and both of those guys started solo. They both have a little bit of a team now because they've grown so fast, but they were doing a better job than the big agencies were doing. And I tell athletes this in the book. I've got like a list of questions for athletes to ask agents. And I tell them when you go to one of those bigger agencies, they probably aren't going to have time for you. You might not be top of their roster. You might get brought in by one of the big names, and then some junior person is who you're actually working with.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the athletes I've known have not been happy with their experience with the big agencies. But I would encourage you to look up and follow a guy named Michael Raymond. In my opinion, he's the best NIL agent out there. He started his agency just on his own in the middle of law school when NIL started in 2021. And now he's got a little bit of team with him. But the thing he's done better than anyone else has done is build relationships with brands. His athletes get more brand partnerships than anyone I know. And it's because he really put a lot of time and effort into building the relationships with the brands. So I would encourage you. He's an inspirational follow, I think.
Good comment. I want to also comment. The coach from Texas, Arcadian, said they're not even agents; they're roommates. And I thought to myself, the roommate knows the athlete and the family better. And that's why we provided this, this opportunity to get certified. We have an agent advisor program where we'll help somebody, but they can leave anytime with their own clients. We're an incubator, if I may, all over the world. But great answer there, Kristi. Let's go to David Dorton with your introduction and questions.
Am I still on?
David?
No, you're
not. You're good. I can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm Dave Dorton. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm an intellectual property lawyer. Signed up for the NIL class, both with you, Greg, and Kristi here coming up soon here in March. Glad for that because I'm tired of the cold weather. My question, it really was sparked by a comment you made, Dr. Lashbrook. You mentioned that there are ways to get around issues or situations in places and jurisdictions that don't have either NIL laws or rules or prohibit them. And now, so I'm in Ohio, and recently there was a court decision saying, Ohio high school students can get NIL deals. And now there's a few of our legislators are trying to push to go back the other way. They've let the cat out of the bag, and now they want to make the cat go back. So.
And David, my point was, and I'll let Greg and Kristi comment on that, but the political will out there, the groundswell of letting the globalization of NIL. It's not even controversial. School choice is making a movement around the world, but NIL, any school has enough boosters. They want access to the 7-footer, whether they're in Canada or Mexico or Africa. It makes no difference. So that was my whole point. I'm a visionary. I watched what the internet did. I'm watching what AI is doing. And so, Greg, your comment on that get around or that passive NIL opportunities for other residents, people out of the country.
Yeah, so I think that one of the
It's
things
not.
to look at there, by the way, shout out, I've got two athletes that came out of Notre Dame Academy up there in Kentucky, right near Cincinnati. So
Yeah.
that's right in my wheelhouse, and they started when they were in high school. And you're an interesting part of the country there in the Midwest. I know Ohio well. I know there's a ton of athletes that want to do NIL. So I think that the more momentum that we can get for it, more athletes that can start doing it sooner, is going to make it a lot more difficult to go back and put that cat back in the bag.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things we need to do is get into Ohio and start educating, right? Like this is up to athletic directors to go and find people to educate so that we don't have missteps from Ohio athletes. And then they go, see, this is why we didn't do NIL. This is why we don't.
Right.
The other thing is, there's strength in numbers. We're up to like nearly 40 states right now that allow high
Yeah.
school NIL. So it's been going what I would call fairly, well to this point. We haven't had any major issues yet. I mean, there are some, yes, they're coming out, but nothing that like, oh my goodness, we have to stop this. It's getting out of control. That's not in my mind the view of it. It is
Right.
continue to educate, and I think that is going to literally be the key, as I said, kind of from the top. Is education is going to be the key to successful NIL, no matter what state you're in.
Yeah.
Right. And then we'll go to, before we go to Don Kloss and Kristi, I want your comments on that. And then we'll bring Don in for the last question and we'll let you guys go. And Mikhail will come in and answer any questions about sports management worldwide. So go ahead, Kristi, your comments on Greg's comments.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I was just going to point out, like he did, I mean, I think we're right around 40 states that allow it. So I think the holdouts are going to cave eventually. I think there's a lot of pressure for them to
Yeah.
allow it. And like Greg said, like I don't think we've seen problems that make a good case for, continuing to prevent it. So I would expect that the other states will all fall in line within the next couple of years.
And I'm just
Yeah.
going to have
Good
one other
stuff.
thing to that.
Yeah, go ahead,
Kristi
Greg.
kind of prompted me here is that I think that one thing that could happen is, and I've seen this happen before, is if someone's in a state where they can't do NIL at the high school level, they will move, they will transfer, they will go to
Yeah.
another school, another state, especially if you're a big name athlete. You're almost being contained and handcuffed. You can't do
Yeah.
what you really want to do. And then they go to a prep school, they go to one of these bigger
Right.
schools. Then they're in a state where it's most likely going to be allowed,
Yeah.
and then they go off and do it anyway.
That's what I envision, Greg. It's a slippery slope. If you fight it, you're going to be out there. Let's go to Don Clausen, one of our longtime SMWW alums. Don, welcome in.
Hey, Doc, good to see you.
Good to see
Thanks
you.
for setting this up, Greg and Kristi. Really great information. I'm getting ready to join the agent advisory program. I'm very interested in NIL. Kristi, my background's a lot like yours. Went to law school, wanted to get involved in sports law. That was late 90s. There weren't a lot of women doing that. Kind of let it go to the wayside and got into real estate and been working in that, doing negotiations, contract matters, things along those lines, just kind of honing those skills. And now I'm ready to really get in here and start doing this as a part-time and hopefully, as full-time. And I just wanted to see if there's any advice either one of you could give for somebody has had their toe in the water, but really getting ready to dive in now in order of magnitude. I know Virginia, I'm in Northern Virginia, so they do allow for advisors in the NIL. So I want to be able to take advantage of, every avenue I can and see what works best, with my skill set.
Yeah, I would tell you where the biggest gap isn't necessarily being an agent. It's just being an attorney that can review contracts. There are not enough attorneys in the country who are familiar with revenue sharing in particular to be able to review those contracts. In fact, there's really only two that I refer people to. I have a list of about 10 who who do it, and kind of two that are my top picks, but there are not enough. And there are a lot of athletes who don't necessarily need an agent. They just need somebody to review the contract. And the guys with the big firms, they can't make it cost effective for athletes. So the people I see who are really succeeding at it usually are on their own or in a smaller firm where they can do kind of a sliding scale, and take, a percent of the contract, more like we would see an agent take at the pro level. There really is a lack of attorneys in this space who have seen enough NIL and revenue sharing contracts to be able to really successfully negotiate them. So I would definitely lean into your law degree.
Yeah, Kristi, you're right, and we always have a referral in our cabinet too for those that have those questions. I agree with you 100%. Greg, your comments on that, and then I want to ask both of you about how strict the representation, how strict are the campuses right now? But let's go to you first, Greg, with Don's question.
So I love the topic, and I definitely think Kristi is absolutely right. There is not enough legal experience right now in the NIL space. Quite honestly, there's not enough athletes reading their own contracts in some cases with these brand deals. Now, as you go into some of these bigger contracts, we're talking collectives, we're talking revenue sharing. Those are obviously the ones that require a lot more attention and deserve what we're talking about here. We're having somebody review it from a legal perspective. I also would even say that these athletes, they are trying to use AI to write contracts, which is a very, very bad idea. They think that they're just going to put it into AI, it's going to come out with something and everything's going to be fine. That's not the case. So obviously somebody like yourself could provide support to an athlete that is trying to maybe work on their contract on their own. Like we're saying here. I definitely think you could also help other agents who are trying to make up these contracts and do these things, that are trying to work with these athletes and do the right things, and they don't have a legal background. And that's back to Kristi's point earlier, is the rules around being an NIL agent, they're just not there. So it doesn't require a legal background. It doesn't even require, in most cases, to have a surety bond in some states. So it's really important to make sure that you are putting your services out there for people to find you, and I think you will have a lot of interest.
And Greg, my comment here before I have you and Kristi go, and I'll get final comments from both of you. My comment, we talk about the ethical compass, but I always talk to people about they want to work in sports. This is a revolutionary opportunity to be part of a resource, even if it's your next door neighbor. You don't have to have all the answers. You just listen to the family and what are their concerns. We had an agent advisor, NIL advisor, transfer portal is really part of the equation, whether you believe it or not. The NIL, you don't go somewhere just because of NIL, but it's all part of the equation. And you have to know more about the family and the player or the athlete's wishes. And I think it's impossible not to understand NIL no matter what you do. And I also think there's a lot of people that be very good NIL agent advisors that want to stay in their lane and stay in their neighborhood and want to help people. And it's exciting to watch your athletes and everything. So final comments, I'll go to Kristi first and then Greg. Any closing comments before I say goodbye to you two? And Mikkel will come in and talk to the group if they have any specific house cleaning questions. So go ahead, Kristi, your final comments.
Yeah, I would just say in general, there's a lot of sort of open space for people who want to educate athletes. And obviously, you've got to educate yourself first. But I think that there is still a big education gap. I get students in my classes all the time who are already like a junior and still don't really understand NIL and what they can and can't do. And so, like Greg and I were saying earlier, it'd be great to start reaching them earlier in high school. But just in general, the educational resources just aren't out there. There just needs to be more of us who are doing it. And so I'm doing this sort of thing and helping and encouraging you to go out because, Greg and I can't cover everybody. Like there needs to be a lot more of us out there who are educating athletes and their parents. And I can tell from the questions everybody's asked, everybody here seems very athlete focused and very interested in protecting and helping the athletes succeed. And I love that attitude.
Yeah. Very exciting. Kristi, I can't thank you enough. Greg, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I want to, again, recommend, Kristi's book, highly recommend. It's obviously part of the course, and it's there for a reason. So great job, Kristi, with the book. And I also think, too, it goes right along with what we're talking about here today. Education is key. These athletes need to know what they're doing. They need to know the rules. They need to know some of the strategies around how to grow your personal brand. Like, there's not a lot of people that are kind of learning how to do that. They're kind of just jumping into NIL. So I think that that's an important thing. The other thing is, I love when I recruit athletes. I think if you're going to work in this space and you want to be an agent, like that's one of the fun things about my job is you never know where the next one's going to come from. The story about Ella Berger still to this day, her dad found me on Google and she ends up winning the 2023 Miss Hockey in Minnesota. I mean, I can't even make this stuff up. And that led to 5 more clients that are now women's ice hockey players. So you never know what's going to happen next. And then I also think too is one thing I'll kind of close with here is to Kristi's point as well. We can't, work with everybody. And as I say, when I work with a lot of agents is, or hear from athletes as well, is I can't represent everyone, but I can help anyone. And that's an important thing. It could be a referral, it could be a contact, it could be somebody that's going to help them in their career, whatever they want to do in the NIL space. I feel a responsibility, and that's why I love teaching the course. I want the next generation of NIL agents to be educated, to be empowering for these athletes. And we don't, as Kristi said, need more bad actors. We need good actors, in this space.
Well, it's a very exciting time, and I've never seen anything like it. What's going on in NIL, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank Kristi for coming in today. Your busy schedule, and I hope you have a great weekend. And I'm going to bring in Mikkel and introduce him. And thanks everyone. Stay in and learn a little bit more about SMW. Mikkel can answer your question. Kristi, thank you. Greg, thank you. Mikkel, come on in.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Thanks for taking over.
The weather's clearing up finally here in rainy Hawaii, so I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining, okay, but I am. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for showing up today, and thank you to Craig and Kristi, of course, for dedicating their time. I know they have very busy schedules, and you guys ask amazing questions. My name is Mikkel Suji. I'm Director of Soccer Operations for Sports Manager Worldwide, and I often come here and answer your guys' questions. Some of you guys I've seen multiple times here. Some of you guys are coming to my agent advisor chat, but most of you guys I haven't seen before. So really what we're going to do here, we're just going to open up the room for any questions regarding our program, what we offer, whether it be you want to for the education in a master's or doctorate degree program. We do offer it as well. CUC, we work through Concordia University in Chicago. So if you do have any question on that, please do not hesitate to ask. And then, yeah, Nick, let's open up the room and see if there's anything, if we can answer any questions.
It looks like we got a question from Don. So Don.
Thank you, guys. Quick question. So I'm looking to get registered with the agent advisory program. Take the, I guess it's an online test from what I saw from the email I received and everything. And then once that gets passed, then you come into the program. At that point, do you become eligible to sit in on the weekly chats for agent advisory? I talked to Adam a little bit about this probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. So just wanted, and then I'm also interested in getting registered in Virginia for any of the NIL. So is that something I could be doing simultaneously? Obviously, I do need to get in and take one of these classes. I don't know if I can make the March class, but definitely getting educated on it. But could those two kind of hold hands, so to speak, or are they kind of individual? Just trying to figure out the roles and rules.
Yeah, so to answer your first question, so once you sign up and go through the onboarding process, you'll be eligible to join our agent advisor chats. We have them on Mondays with Mikkel Suchi, which is soccer focused, and then on Wednesdays, which is kind of a more generic where we focus on football, NIL, baseball, basketball, individual sports as well. So just kind of all that, and it's all recorded, so you can be able to review it even if you're not able to be there. And I know we're going through the draft process right now, so there's been a ton of questions about, oh, what do we send out to scouts and everything, and go through that. So we'll kind of walk through that all through you, as Adam and Mikkel has personal experience, multi-years working with athletes and has connections in industry, and just kind of showing you what you need to do in order to evaluate talent. Because at the end of the day, to be an agent or to be some sort of representation, you have to be a little bit of a scout as well. Because if you can't recognize if a player is good or not, then you're gonna be signing guys who aren't gonna make it, and then now you just wasted 3 or 4 months of your year, and then that can really add up. So that's an important thing to note. In terms of you're talking about getting signed up. So I know each state has their own sort of NIL compliance that you need to sign up for, and then there's even some universities where you have to sign up with them directly as well. So you have to kind of go on, and that's going to be all taught through the NIL course. You'll kind of go through all those necessary steps, what you need to do, which is an important part of the grants class, because you want to make sure you don't mishap, because then a contract could be void. I mean, we saw an example a couple weeks ago where somebody was kind of using a contract that we have provided in the past inappropriately, and it's an avoid contract now because it was not 100% correct to what the standards would be. So being able to be 100% sure, because the worst thing you could do is ruin your reputation by messing up a simple thing like a contract as well.
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course, Don. It looks like we got Riley Brahman.
Yeah, it's me. I just had a question. Do we have any new courses or new department coming up in the next year or two with SMWW?
New as in like
Like,
ones that's not on the website already.
yeah, like not on the website, or like I know I talked to somebody about golf not too long ago. Do we have anything that kind of coming up and coming, or is everything just kind of going to be the same as it is for now?
I think for now we're working on a couple things. It's not as easy to put classes together as it may seem, as you see sometimes out there people putting classes together willy-nilly. But
Mhm.
yeah, so we're kind of in the process of things. If it's right, it's right. But I know golf has been definitely something that's been brought up in multiple conversations. And all that kind of falls under the athlete marketing and branding. So trying to figure out what content to be able to provide so that's different and actually relevant. Because at the end of the day, a lot of individual sports has to go with the marketing of the athlete. And so kind of figuring out how to do that is specialized in each sport, because we do have a rugby. I mean, we still have cricket, we do esports. So, I mean, it's all kind of in a similar area, but just trying to specialize it for each individual one. So to answer your question, work in progress.
Yeah, I think for
Sounds
golf
good.
as well, Riley. If you know the game, you know the game, right? But at the end of the day, it's golf. Golfers make most of their money either by winning a tournament or getting great sponsors, right?
Right.
So, understanding the market, understanding the game itself as well, and also understanding what company they would want to work with, but what also golf friendly, because there's a whole different space if you're going to compare between the market of a golfer and a football player or a soccer player. They're just complete two different dimensions in terms of,
Yeah.
marketability and brands that they want to work with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
No,
the marketing
that's
branding
fair.
course will absolutely help you with that, 100%.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds
I
good.
mean, Larry Lundy teaches that course, and he's worked with people like Deion Sanders, Emmett Smith, those type of people, and I mean, he's been to the Super Bowl the past 13 years, so um, been invited to go because of his sponsorship that he works. I mean, he did the MLB All-Star Game last year, so
Okay.
these are the type of industry leaders that we have that teach our courses. Not people with just fancy degrees, it's people who actually live and breathe in it, former executives, people currently in the game, scouts. I mean, Mikkel was a former player, turned agent, and has relationships with teams in MLS and overseas as well. And so those are the type of people where they've lived on both sides of the table, so it can give you the overall experience, so that now you can be as most informed. So when you have that first conversation with a client or with a team, you're now
Mm.
more prepared than ever. So that's kind of a little
Perfect.
bit about what we do as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome, Riley. Do we have any other questions? I know we talked about some of our graduate degrees. I know Mikhail teaches also a couple of our courses. We got the FIFA agent prep course coming up. If you're interested in becoming a soccer agent, being a FIFA agent is important. Being FIFA certified is important. It does not require as much, special requirements like the NFLPA does when it comes to a master's degree, but still being able to be educated so that you don't have to waste your money taking an exam and not passing. So we do have that coming up here at the beginning of March. We do, like I said, we have a football conference coming in next week. We'll be down in Indianapolis where, executives, anyone who's in football will be there. It's a great way even just to network and get your foot in the door. I mean, we have we have people like Adam Schefter, Brian Baldinger. I know we have the VP of football operations for the Giants. Just got announced a couple days ago that's speaking as well. So these are the type of people you get to be able to meet and hang out with, including Mikkel and ourselves. So. Do we have any last questions before we wrap up? Or Mikkel, you have anything else you want to go over?
Hi, Nick
No.
and Mikkel. This is Colin Gray from Lethbridge, Alberta.
Hey, Colin, how you doing, man?
Good. How you guys doing?
Not too bad.
Doing well.
Is there any way we can recruit coaches for ice hockey or officials like NHL officials or NCAA?
So representing coaches is probably one of the most missed opportunities in the game of agents, right? Especially in soccer, right? Or even in football, right? They're going to get paid no matter what. If you're going to get fired after signing a 5-year contract in your first year of your contract, you're getting fired based on results, right? They still going to owe you the remainder of the 5-year contract. So as an agent, it's extremely lucrative, right? But also, it also comes in the art of negotiating the contract. They're not going to pay you the full 100%. But if you say, hey, you know what? If my client gets fired, you're going to still pay him 80% of what you guys owe him, right? Jose Mourinho is a very famous soccer coach. He made over 192 million pounds by getting fired. Okay? So here's that. Never set out an entire contract, but that's how much money he made. Because he gets fired, but the club still have to pay him, right? Look at the Raiders right now. They're still paying $50 million on coaches that are not coaching there anymore, right? So if you're an agent for whether it be John Gruden or some of the guys that are just got fired, Chip Kelly, right? They're still getting paid. And when those guys get paid, guess who else gets paid? Their agents. So it's such a missed opportunity to if you feel like, oh, coach, there's not a lot of money into it. No, that's guaranteed money in your pocket if you structure the contract
Not
correctly.
even in professional. Let's start with colleges. I mean,
College,
you saw
yeah.
all the payouts that they have, and the step relations where they gotta be able to be actively looking for a job, and
Mhm.
and the stuff that universities and teams have in their contracts. But I mean, the college level, there's over 200 colleges. I mean, the only thing is if you're looking to do players and coaches, there could be a conflict of interest if they're in the same sport or around the same level. But that
Well, or
sometimes,
look at it this way, right? You have a coach that you represent, but that coach gets hired by, let's say, uh, the Galaxy or a football team, the Raiders, right? And you represent that coach, but guess what? The coach is going to tell you, hey, you know what? I want that running back. I want that running back. And you know what? When you represent as an agent, you contact the other agent. Hey, you know what? Let's do a deal together. That's easy money. You don't even have to recruit because you already know what the coaches want,
yeah.
right? Which position they want. And let's make it happen. 50-50. Hey, you know what? And that's why it's very important to don't turn a blind eye on representing coaches on all sports.
What about officials, Mikhail and Nick?
I mean, I
Depending
I'm a
on,
former athlete, man. My
yeah.
officials are not my best friend, so um, no, 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 no disrespect, but but the thing is, I don't know if you can really represent officials. I think that definitely might be a conflict of interest. I don't think you can. Yeah, I don't think you can.
Yeah, I
Imagine
mean,
having an agent, having a client playing uh again for a football team, but you're also representing the referee or the umpire, the referee that's playing. You don't think that's going to be, yeah. So yeah, I don't think you can do that. There's no way.
Yeah, and plus that's probably not even close unless you have like a guy that's a 10-year vet, but then at the end of the day they don't like necessarily need an agent because like at the end of the day they it's a
Yeah.
little bit different. And plus, some in certain leagues they're part-time officials, they're not full-time officials anyway.
Yeah.
Um so I wouldn't necessarily step in that space, but obviously you're free to exploit if your passion desires it.
For part-time officials, they probably make more money than we all do combined here, which is very, very, very depressing.
That's fair.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
man.
you, Colin.
Anytime, guys.
We got time for one more if anyone has last one about our programs, our conferences, our degrees, what goes into it. We have a resume redesign service that comes with every course. Each alumni gets to take a sports career strategies course for complimentary as well, which goes over interview prep, jobs. So if you're trying to get into the industry, that's one way to do it. I know we're here for NIL and we're here for kind of representation. But there's multiple avenues and some people want to pivot as well. So just always think about that. We'll go with Chuck for our last question before we head out today.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you. Uh, Chuck Ferris. I'm in Florida right now. I do have a master's in athletic coaching. I actually met a junior in high school. Well, I'm signed up for the baseball agent class. It starts March 30th. And just wondering, what should I do other than read these books that I was sent to prepare?
Yeah, so are you looking to become an MLBPA certified?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the key things is one, passing the test, but also it's different in baseball. So in football, you pass the test, you pay your fees, you're certified, right? And then you got to produce a player in about 3 years, and if you don't, they take away your license. You have to go through the process again. Whereas in baseball, if you pass the test, you're not technically officially certified yet because you need to have a player that's on the roster in order to officially get it. I think it's the same way with hockey.
Hmm.
And there's multiple different levels of certification in baseball. I think there's three of them. So when you're looking at this and going through the course, one, think about what do you want to do. I mean, Dr. Lashberg talked about an agent advisor program. The instructor Oscar Suarez is going to be MLBPA certified agent. So when you get to a case where you going through the course, I want to do this, I'm going to go on this, becoming a baseball agent. Sign up for the agent advisor course. You come in, we help you with chats, recruiting, where to find people, having those types of conversations, and being able to go through that. And then if you get a place where you needed to sign him and you haven't passed the exam yet, that's where Oscar Suarez will come in and help you out there, right? So that's kind of the easy pathway for you to kind of start building your building blocks up, build your clientele, build your reputation. Because at the end of the day, you got to know scouts. You got to know your local area scouts. You got to be able to have people that you can dial and say, "Hey, I got a player you should look at." Or you get some scouts that are, if you have a really good relationship to them, um, you get a really good relationship with them and they say, hey, I've heard this high school player doesn't have an agent and he's going to be a pretty big prospect here as we're really interested in him. You should look at him. And that's kind of how like being able to have good relationship building, because to any sort of representation, no matter what sport, college, whatever it is, you got to be able to have those relationships. So what I would think is like trying to go out there and trying to build those relationships. We do have a baseball career conference each year during the winter meetings. We'll see if there's going to be a winter meetings this year because of of a potential lockout. But we go to those and there's it's literally they're doing deals right at the spot, and being able to talk with people and have a beer with someone if that's what you're into, and being able to go through all that and just say, hey, I'm an upcoming agent. This is what I'm doing. I work with this and that sort of thing. So when it goes about the agent, I would try to understand like arbitration at that time. So when Oscar starts talking about it, how many years, how many days you'll need to have before someone's eligible, or kind of the payouts they can have for pensions post their playing years. I think it's like 43 days is when they first become eligible on an active MLB roster. So, being trying to get an understanding of that so that when you get to the class, it's now like you can ask more high level questions too as well.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome, Chuck. And then I guess we got one more with Riley, and then we'll hop off. I actually saw one in the chat before I go to Riley. Any stats on how many NFL agents that pass the exam fail to land a client within 3 years? Do you
I
know that
think
one, Mikhail?
I Well, not necessarily, but a lot of them they just are a part of it of an agency, right? So it's not like they're, you know, either they're going to sign them to themselves or through one of the main agents, and then they just add their name to it. Because
Hmm.
mind you, they might be good in recruiting, or there's ways where they won't lose their license, I guess, in if that makes sense. Unless you're obviously an independent agent, yeah, you kind of don't have a choice.
Yeah, because I mean, you see tons of times, and even Mikkel just talked about like, hey, this I got a buddy who's a coach, and he really loves this guy, but he's represented by a different agent. Like, it doesn't hurt to go and like work a deal.
Mm.
And just,
Yeah.
because one, like, if you could do that now, that's a name that you can put when you're going out to recruit players, like, hey, I represent this guy, I co-represent this guy. I mean, Dr. Lashberg has done it in the past. I know, there's a ton of other peoples that have done it. So it's just again, relationship building. But I guess more than you would say, but there's ways around it.
Yeah.
All right, Riley.
Yeah, for hockey, who do we go to for hockey? Like, say, like because right now I am kind of, behind the scenes looking at a player, and obviously it's here in Canada, but the player is actually in Indiana.
Okay.
Who do we go for in terms of the NHL PA?
Rick Curran.
So that's one. So we'll
Yeah.
we'll we'll direct you. So Rick Curran is our if we get to a situation similar with any of our those sports, if we get to a situation where someone's getting an NHL contract, then we'll introduce you to Rick Curran. But
Well,
our hockey agency director is Michael Collier. He's based out of Canada, Nova Scotia
Oh
area.
yeah, I
So
did go to him. Yeah, I just did a call with him on Saturday morning.
yes, so he's our kind of North America guy. We have someone in Europe. His name is Daniel Nygaard. He was kind of the GM of the Herning Blue Fox, which is in the top tier league in Denmark.
Yep,
And he has now
yep.
gone into agent representation since his time there. And so I think he has a guy that they worked on together, and they got into the ECHL over from Denmark. So those are going to be those are the two guys that if they're going to be more likely to help you out on a more frequent basis. And then
Okay.
obviously I can make introductions as well.
Okay, I just wanted. I did do I had about an hour and 20 minute call with Michael Saturday morning on Zoom. So I just wasn't sure if he was only for Canada or if he was for,
Oh,
everybody.
he does. Yeah, he's full everything as well. It's just we're talking about centralized location because like if someone's in
Yeah,
Europe, I mean, they're not going to be picking up the phone at 3 a.m. in the morning. So, um,
yeah,
I know he just signed somebody that is going to like the top tier in Sweden.
yep,
For women's soccer, for women's hockey, and it's like the top three league in the world. So, and he has his PWHL license, which, as we can see, Team USA is crushing it in the Olympics and the women's side as well. And a lot of those
uh,
girls are from, PWHL. So,
yeah. Because I was just gonna ask you about the PWHL, because I know Michael said that he had a PWHL license or whatever. How would that work in terms of, being an SMWW agent advisor? Would that be the same way at the NHL, or is it something else that we need to do
yeah.
something special?
So unless you want to get your license yourself, you would need to work with Michael Collier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is he the only one for PWHL at
Correct.
SMWW? Okay.
Correct.
Nick
Okay.
and Michael, Colin again. I scouted some Lethbridge girls under under 17 double A girls hockey team there last weekend, and some under 18 boys triple A hockey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. If you have anyone that you feel like that deserves some representation, send them over my way, and I can distribute it to the appropriate people.
Absolutely, Nick and Michael.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Chuck. Well, one will be the last one for sure, and then we gotta head off. But Chuck,
Oh, I was just my video went out. I was asked to put the video back on, so I don't know what happened with that.
I think I
But I'm
accidentally shut it off. That's why I asked you to
okay.
put it
No
back on.
problem.
So, all right, sounds good. Well, I think we'll stop it here for tonight. Mikkel, thank you for hopping on to help close out. Um, like I said, we're here to help. I'm gonna put our office line on here. If you have any questions, feel free to call the office. We're here during normal business hours. We got people, if you call a little bit later in the day, we got people like Mikel, and that's more on the Hawaii. He's in Hawaii, so he's a little bit early in the day. And then you got people like John and Adam, which are some of our other career advisors that are over in Wisconsin. They're a couple hours ahead. But you just call the office if you want some advice, kind of figure out what you want to do, get educated. Please call the office. We're here to help. And if you have any other questions or anything else, you can also email info@smww.com. So, well, thank you guys for coming in. Shout out to Kristi and Greg for coming on as well. And hope you guys have a great rest of your day and stay safe.
Nick, I was just wondering where we get Kristi's book.
I put it into the chat. I'll send it. Is that Colin?
Yes, sir.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Have a great day, guys.